It's Reality Check with Craig Price.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me.
You're like a beautiful mind. I'm more like Forrest Gump. So it's,
Craig Price is the man.
I knew it. Craig, shut up. It's Reality Check with Craig Price. This week, Alan Cerny of ComingSoon.net is here to preview holiday movies. Welcome to the show. Our good friend Alan Cerny is here to do our annual preview of movies through the end of the new year. Due to the fact there's so many good movies coming out, he's actually on a few weeks early instead of the normal Thanksgiving week episode. And as usual, it's a bonus episode. His episodes are routinely the most downloaded and the ones I personally look forward to the most. But before I get to Alan, a quick reminder that A Marvelous Nerd Year's Eve is quickly becoming the most anticipated event in 2016. Celebrate, experience, and connect to the stars at this 4-day Geek Expo, December 29th through January 1st at the Sheraton in Dallas. Over 30 celebrity guests, artists, and authors with the likes of the Guardians of the Galaxy's Michael Rooker and Sean Gunn, Star Trek's original Ohura Nichelle Nichols, Pinky and the Brain, Maurice Lamarche, and Rob Paulson are there, plus past podcast guest Ming Chen and the 7th Doctor from Doctor Who, Sylvester McCoy. There'll be great panels around the clock, some of which I will be hosting, multiple parties every night, and of course, the best New Year's party in Texas. So go to marvelousnye.com for details and buy your tickets today. With that being said, let's learn about some of the great movies coming out for the rest of this year with our resident movie critic and the least cynical critic on the internet, Alan Cerny. It's that time of year again. It's crisp in Houston, which means it's a balmy 78 degrees.
Enjoy it for about 3 days, maybe.
Yeah, no, it'll be random. It won't be 3 days in a row. It'll be 3 random days between now and February that'll be cool.
Yeah.
But that means it's movie time, and I really wanted to get you in. We're doing it early for several reasons. One, I've got what we would normally do on Thanksgiving. I've got something else planned for everybody. But also, I wanted to get you in early because when I looked over the list, a lot of really good movies come out well before, and we've had this problem in the past. I got tired of being stuck going, all the good movies were 3 weeks ago.
Right, and the funny thing is about fall, it tends to be like this every year, but at the fall, in summer, you've got the big summer blockbuster movies, but they've got 3 months to spread them out. In the fall, they've got 6 weeks, so movies that you want to see, 6 or 8 weeks really, movies that you want to see, they jam-pack a weekend, and it's hard to get to everything.
Well, it's like Halloween candy. You start to see it in September. You start to see it now in August.
Right.
The movies that you would see normally after at Thanksgiving or later are now October. They're not afraid to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Just like they're not afraid to release blockbusters in February.
Right. Now it's fair game. Every month is fair game. And this has always been my favorite time of the year, movie-wise, even more. Well, not always. It used to be when I was a kid, it was summer. And now that I'm older, it's like fall. The fall, it has the better films.
And, well, as a kid, growing up in the Northeast, which you grew up here in Texas, I grew up where it was cold, this was the great time of the year because when it was too cold to go outside or it was just snowy or sloppy and you just going to the movies was a great relief because it's so beautiful in the summertime. You're out running around doing stuff that we didn't have to hide from the heat like you did in
Right,
Texas.
yeah. Right, in summer, we run inside.
Yeah, we had to hide from the cold, so we'd go to the movies. And so winter movies for me is always a great time. Except this year, like I said, they're getting early and early, and I wanted to start off one that's really personal to you, not necessarily the subject matter, but behind the scenes. And I got to meet him this year. But November 4th, we're going to start. So this weekend, Doctor Strange, which I'm super excited about because it's got my favorite, Benjamin Cumberbatch. Doctor Strange from Marvel's coming out, but you know some people behind the scenes. And I don't mean just like a gaffer or a best boy.
Yeah, first off, Doctor Strange is directed by Scott Derrickson, who I've had a relationship with online for a few years, but his co-writer is a man named C. Robert Cargill, who, if people who have been following where I used to write for Ain't It Cool News, he was one of our reviewers there named Massa Worm. And I've known him for almost 20 years now, probably 18 years. Used to go over to his house for parties on after Butnumathon weekend, which is a big movie event we do every year. And he's a great guy. He is He talks like Kyle Kinane. He has a really gravelly voice, I guess from smoking in Dr. Pepper, but he doesn't smoke or drink Dr. Pepper anymore. But he loves fantasy. He loves science fiction. He's big and steeped in Dungeons and Dragons. And he's also an author. He has 2 books out, one called Dreams and Shadows, the other called Queen of the Dark Things, and he's working on another one about a post-apocalyptic robot war.
Where there's actually no humans in it at all.
Yeah, no
Because I was at that panel that he was at Comic Palooza.
Yeah.
And that's where I got to meet him. Great guy.
Yeah.
And you can tell that he is a nerd at heart.
Oh, very much. Huge nerd. And this guy, has a huge workhorse habit. He's always writing, always writing. I envy his writing ability and his drive. But he and Scott Derrickson co-wrote Sinister together. And then they just clicked. They have a good writing bond. And when Doctor Strange came along, and I remember when Doctor Strange was getting kind of talked about, and I went on Twitter. I don't want to say I'm the first person to say this, but I had to be one of the first people to say this. I said they need to get Scott Derrickson to direct Doctor Strange, and sure enough, it happened. I'm very excited for Doctor Strange. I want a trippy, weird... I haven't seen it yet, but I want a trippy, weird movie, and it looks like that's what we're getting. It's a full-on all-star cast. The score by Michael Giacchino is very strange and weird and epic, and I really dig it. And I'm just really excited for my friend Cargill. I really want this to do well. I want him to... it feels like... we have a little film community of film geeks and film writers and critics and stuff. And we've known each other all for a long time. Sometimes we get along well. We've had controversies. We've had some not all that long ago. But we're still a lot of friends and we bond really well. For Cargill to kind of leap out of this feels like Nirvana coming out of Seattle for me. And I'm really happy for him, and I can't wait to see the film. I hope it does very well.
This is one of those situations where he's been behind the scenes trudging along like a lot of writers do, and this is his chance. This is his moment in the sunshine, I should say. I mean, he'll have plenty of chances because he's just talented, but this is a Marvel film.
Yes, a very big... I mean, it's the new generation Star Wars. And I mean, not this particular movie, but the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. And to have him involved with it, to have him part of our community become involved with it is very exciting.
And so you're not going to review this movie because you're too close.
Yeah, they're friends of mine. I'm really excited to see it. I have a feeling I'm probably a sucker for this movie. I have a feeling I'm probably going to love it, but I don't feel comfortable reviewing it. Right, I try to keep a little distance.
It's hard when you're that close to not just the director who you kind of know and you talk to a little bit and you talk to online a lot, but you've spent time in person with the writer. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to say, especially when you like them and you know their work and you read their books and you're like, it's going to be hard for you to get rid of that bias.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it's getting more common that way. I have to be careful of the relationships I form with filmmakers because it's difficult. I have to have some sort of a distance from them. There's a movie coming out next year called Colossal, which is directed by a man named Nacho Vigalondo. It's starring Anne Hathaway. It's a big giant monster movie. I don't want to spoil it too much, but I've known him for a long time too, and he's a really fun guy. He's a blast to be with at Fantastic Fest. I did review his film because it's great. Because I know him, but I don't know him as closely as I know, like Cargill. But it is a problem. Sometimes you can form relationships with people who love your work as a critic and go on to make films, and then you have to separate yourself from them a little bit.
Well, let's talk about Doctor Strange real quick. What we've seen, and what we know about, but without getting any spoilers, because there's not very many. Because, like I said, we haven't seen it, but you may have talked to Cargill maybe a little bit.
A little, but not a whole lot. I try to avoid that stuff.
But what does this mean for the Marvel Universe? Because I think this is another stepping stone like Guardians of the Galaxy was, where... unlike Guardians of the Galaxy, this one actually people are hoping does well. Where Guardians of the Galaxy, all I heard was garbage until they saw the movie, and they were then I've never seen a complete 180 so quickly.
That's still my favorite Marvel film.
Because they thought if Guardians Galaxy doesn't work, Marvel's due for an upset. There's no way they can have a talking raccoon. There's no way they can do Shri. And I just saw the teaser for 2, and that baby Groot just kills you every time you see him.
Yeah. that movie's going to be great. I'm really excited for Doctor Strange because this is where Marvel gets weird. This is where they get magical.
It looks like it's going to be, and I know you're resistant to IMAX and 3D because the way they project it in certain places.
This one is probably going to be one I'm going to make the leap for.
Because this one seems like almost like Avatar, where seeing what you saw,
the buildings twisting and turning on themselves, the mystical spells being cast. This feels like a very big film. It's definitely going to be Scott Derrickson's biggest film.
And I heard Cumberbatch's American accent, and it's not as bad as the previews or the trailers made it sound, because they'd only give you a little half snippets, like him saying a phrase of 4 or 5 words, but I've actually heard him complete sentences.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
It's funny when you listen to British actors do American accents, they tend to go like an octave deeper in their voice. Their voice sounds deeper. I don't understand why that is, but I guess maybe it's just a part of our voice, the way we talk.
But then there's people who you didn't even know were British.
That's true.
Which pisses, you're sitting there going, what the, hey, no, that's a British person. How'd that happen? Because you watch was it Lincoln Andrews from The Walking Dead?
Right, Andrew Lincoln, yeah.
Andrew Lincoln, sorry. And you watch him, and I forget, because he's had bit parts in movies. I forgot he was in these romantic.
He looks like a total redneck. You would never imagine him to be British.
He sounds like a total redneck, and he's fantastic. And I find out a lot like Hugh Laurie, though I knew Hugh Laurie because Hugh Laurie was a famous British comedian. But when you see him, you don't know that he'd be British.
Yeah,
and it irritates me.
And the casting couldn't be better. Benedict Cumberbatch looks like Doctor Strange. He looks like the Doctor Strange from the comics. There's a little of the backstory where they tried to get Joaquin Phoenix to play Doctor Strange at one point. I don't know how that would have worked because Benedict Cumberbatch.
I think it was timing. I think they always wanted Benedict, and they actually were like, "Well, we can't because he can't. We don't have time for him.
He was so busy for Sherlock and other things."
Right, and then they shifted over to Joaquin, and then they were like, "We really want Benedict, and so we'll wait."
Yeah,
because I was reading some articles where Kevin Feige said that they actually waited for Benedict's schedule to open up.
Yeah, and I'm glad because I think he embodies the physical parts of that role perfectly. There's controversy in some of the casting that they've done with this film, but I'm totally cool with the Ancient One being played by Tilda Swinton.
And I heard that was all politics. I heard that because China is a huge market nowadays, and if there's ghosts in it, they don't show the movie. They didn't show Ghostbusters because of ghosts.
Yep, and
and they didn't want to put a Tibetan in there as the Ancient One because of all the political ramifications.
Yeah, and
for that.
they it's a global market now, and what plays in America doesn't necessarily play in other places. And you know what? I'm okay with those changes. I'm totally fine. Doctor Strange is probably one of the more malleable characters of the Marvel Universe to put on film. And his stuff gets weird. I mean, the drawings of Steve Ditko, if you ever look at a Doctor Strange panel, it's full of blues and reds and colors and circles and orbs and things and glowing stuff. And Doctor Strange is weird, legitimately weird. He is definitely a lower, I don't want to say lower tier. He's a second stringer in Marvel, okay? And now that he's going to be in the cinematic universe, he's going to be a first stringer. I don't mind that.
And one of the things I've heard, because Doctor Strange and Tony Stark are very similar in personality.
Yeah.
In attitude. They're both cocky, snarky, sarcastic, except one tamed himself through having his heart almost killed and alcoholism and fighting all that, and the other one tamed himself because his hands were destroyed and he had to learn mysticism, which requires patience and some meditation. So I heard that this is a good way to slowly transition because
here's the
Robert
thing.
Downey Jr. is not going to be there for too many more films.
Well, here's the thing. There's this long arc that started with Iron Man and it's going to end with Avengers Infinity War 1 and 2. Whatever happens after those movies, I have no idea. I kind of hope that they try to break the continuity bond and just do their own thing because they've been telling this long story arc from the very beginning. And to keep movies aren't comics. To keep continuity in movies, people age, people die. And in comics, you just get to draw the same face over and over again. So it doesn't necessarily, they don't get to age in comics. You can have a long story arc that could last 10, 15 years in comics, and they'll still look the same. But in movies, people get older. So the idea that, and I love how the Marvel Cinematic Universe is carefully planted the seeds for these movies because, in the first film is Iron Man, and it's all tech, right? It's all technological. And then Thor sort of comes in and introduces the idea of a possibility that there's magic. And they don't call it they call it magic, but they say basically it's very, 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 very advanced science. Yeah. And then we move on to Guardians of the Galaxy, which puts everything on a cosmic scale. And we get a little taste of that in the first Avengers when the aliens attack New York. And now with Doctor Strange, we get to add mysticism. We get to add magic. I mean, genuine magic.
And demons.
And demons and extra, I can't even say it right. Extra dimensional entities and all sorts of stuff because the Doctor Strange roster of villains is odd.
Oh,
Very odd. Okay, I mean, we're talking monolithic demonic forces from outside the universe who want nothing more to destroy our world like it's just a bug. And all these things that are coalescing are all going to coalesce in Avengers Infinity War, those two movies. And we still got more characters that they're going to introduce. We still got Captain Marvel coming. We've been introduced to Black Panther, but we're going to get a film on Black Panther. There's Guardians of the Galaxy, which are going to have more characters being introduced to that. We have Thanos doing whatever he's doing outside the scenes, but that's not going to be outside the scenes for much longer. And then all of this is going to culminate in Infinity War. And after that, I hope that they haven't painted themselves in a corner, but they kind of have. Like I said,
I just think they're gonna. I think they're gonna. I think there's just gonna be a new roster of folks, and they're gonna continue the story with those folks, and maybe they'll refer back, almost like an Agent Coulson situation, where he's alive, but he's on the TV show, and they never talk about him in the movies.
Yeah.
So they may reference Captain America, but they're not going to show him. Right. They may refer to things that happened in the past, but they're not going to show any of those guys because they're going to move on. And then 10 years from now, when they're actually old, they may bring one in just as something like they always do when they kill someone off. They wait a year and a half and then they bring someone back. But I don't think they've painted themselves in a corner. I just think creatively it does hamstring a lot of folks.
It's going to be difficult.
But it also opens up a lot of things too because you've already got buy-in, which is unusual. So you don't have to rely on a lot of that. You can just go, hey, just continuation because you know that people have seen these movies in the past.
Yeah, and the thing about the Marvel, I mean, they've got Fox has the X-Men rights to the X-Men, and they also, I believe Fox or is it Sony, has the rights. And Sony with Spider-Man has actually bought into the Marvel universe, which is really cool, and I'm excited to see how that's going to play out.
They're licensing. That's why I don't think the X-Men could easily come back at some point if they think about it. All it takes is the right person.
Spider-Man is such a big deal to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and just a big deal to Marvel in general. They couldn't not have him. X-Men has always been their own kind of thing. It'd be cool if they were in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but if they're not, it's okay. The one group I want to see in the Marvel Cinematic Universe more than anything is Fantastic Four, is because their villain roster is the best villain roster of all the Marvel heroes. You've got Galactus, and you've got Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is probably...
And the Skrulls.
All those villains that are part of the roster of... Fantastic Four, and all those should be in the cinematic universe. If they get Fantastic Four into the fold, then they could tell stories as much as they want over a long period of time. They have nothing to worry about after Infinity War, and I think that's what the plan is. I would imagine that Fantastic Four is going to come back to Marvel, and then you get to see the Skrull War, you get to see Doctor Doom in Latveria, and most importantly, you get to see Galactus, because Galactus is my favorite story.
One of my favorites. They did a horrible job at making him some kind of alien cloud.
Yeah.
So, on the same week, I don't want to say a reemergence, because he's been around. He's been doing side jobs, but his first directing job since, I think, Apocalypto. Mel Gibson is back with Hacksaw Ridge with Andrew Garfield.
Speaking of Spider-Man, former Spider-Man,
and it's a war movie, but it's a strange war movie because it's about a
conscientious objector who decides to never lift up a weapon and fight in World War II. And it's based on a true story.
Yeah, and he's a medic, and he's out there saving people while people are trying to kill him and all that things. Well, the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because we always talk about there's been so many things going on in the world, and we find out so many things about people's personal lives now that we never did before. At what point can we allow a director back into the fold? I mean, some things are unforgivable. And so I don't go see Roman Polanski movies. I don't. I mean, he did frantic with Harrison Ford.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that before I knew more about Roman Polanski, but it's like, after that one, I was like, oh, I found out about him, and it's like, this guy is a living creep.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's people I don't know are living creeps that I watch
There
and
are
enjoy.
probably more than you realize.
I'm sure. So what happens now that Mel Gibson? Are you saying this is his comeback because it's supposed to be he does a great job. He is a good director.
It's funny on the posters they don't say his name. They say from the director of Braveheart, from the director and The Passion of the Christ, but they don't say his name. But anybody who knows. Listen, as a film critic, as a critic in general, and as just a person who enjoys art and film and novels and comic books and art, I have to separate the art from the artist. I have to. Otherwise I would never read anything. I'd never see anything. There's so many films out there, so many people who I don't agree with politically. There's so many people who their past is a terrible thing. Robert Downey Jr. cleaned himself up, and look what happened. If we judged him on his past behavior, we wouldn't get any Marvel movies. We wouldn't be watching any of that stuff.
Yeah, but did he do that to himself, or did he do that to other people?
Well, I mean, how do you look at it? He has a family. He did that. He had kids at the time. All that stuff. It's all on how you look at it. Two things about Hacksaw Ridge. I want to see it because Mel Gibson is a very talented director. No matter what anybody says about him in his personal life, he definitely has a philosophy. A lot of filmmakers do. Scott Derrickson directed Doctor Strange. He's an avowed Christian. There are a lot of people who have different ideas of how the world goes. Mel Gibson was raised by a very racist father, and he's had problems with alcohol in his entire life. He's had problems with his marriage. I don't want to judge somebody on that because there for the grace of God, there go me. There goes I. I'm not saying I'm a bad person. I'm just saying that I can't make a decision on somebody's life based on what they've experienced and the criteria of what they've done. Having said that, yes, there are filmmakers out there who have problematic past, like Roman Polanski, who is a very talented director, has a very gifted storyteller. He's also a very terrible human being. Everybody has to come at that at their own way and at their own level of comfortability. I'm a movie geek and a fanatic. I will see pretty much anything almost. But there are certain things I won't. There's a movie out there called A Serbian Film. I'll never see that movie. I know what it's about, and I don't want to bore you with the details, but it's a movie that I would be horrified to watch. But as a whole, it's difficult. It's a difficult decision that everybody's got to make on their personal. And you can't judge other people for the decisions they make in regards to how they intake their art, or if they feel like somebody is a terrible person, they don't ever want to consume their work, ever want to take a part of it. That's totally fine. That's totally them. You can't judge them, but they in turn can't judge you if you want to see those pieces of art, if you want to experience those things. The Marquis de Sade was a terrible, horrible human being doing heinous things, and yet he wrote some of the greatest books of all time. I'm sure if we dive back into Shakespeare's past, there have been terrible things that he's done. All sorts of things. You can't. The art is supposed to be its own thing. The art is what progresses the human race further. If this whole world gets blown up, I would hope the only thing that's left is maybe a hard drive with all the books that we've ever written and all the pictures we've ever painted and all the movies we've ever made. Because that, to me, is what humanity is. And regardless of what they've done, the people who've made those things isn't nearly as important as the fact that those things were created and made and added to the conversation and changed us as people. That's my position. But it can't be everybody's, and I understand that.
Well, then we'll just change gears. And also coming out that weekend, Trolls.
Yeah.
So is it, basically, it's the Troll Dolls. It's Justin Timberlake. It's a musical. A lot of singing. There's a lot of singers in it. So if you want to see a goofy kids movie with strange hair and lots of pop songs, Trolls.
Yeah, Trolls. Okay. Trolls.
So now you wanted to talk about this one that I was unaware of until you told me about it, because I mean, it was under my radar, but apparently it blipped on there once in a while because once you told me what it was, I'm like, oh yeah, because I recognized some of the people in it, and I think I've seen a trailer for it.
Yeah, and it's a great trailer. It's a movie called Loving, directed by Jeff Nichols, who people may remember, who directed a movie called Mud with Matthew McConaughey, and another movie that came out this year called Midnight Special, which is kind of a alien riff, E.T. riff, more like. Loving tells a true story of the Loving couple. The last name is Loving, so when I say Loving, it's not an adjective; it's their name. Interracial couple who decided to get married and broke the laws of the state they were married in, and took the case all the way to the Supreme Court for their right to be married. And of course, it's a very topical discussion to have right now. But the cast is wonderful. Joel Edgerton and Ruth Negga play the Loving couple. I'm very excited to see it because Jeff Nichols is a really interesting director. He puts extraordinary situations into very, I don't want to say ordinary, but very relatable experiences for an audience. A film like Midnight Special, which is about an alien coming to Earth, and they put it in the context of being a father, and it's really interesting. And then you have Mud with McConaughey as kind of this drifter guy. You have other films that Jeff Nichols has done. What's the one? Gosh, I'm missing the title. I'm blanking on it. That's okay. There's this one movie starring the guy who played Zod in Man of Steel.
Michael Sheen.
Michael Shannon.
Michael Sheen
who has these apocalyptic visions of the end of the world, and he's convinced they're real, and he's trying to convince people that it is real. But it also is a movie about a guy slowly kind of maybe going insane. And I can't remember the title. Take Shelter. That's it. It's called Take Shelter. It's a really good film. He's a really great director. And this is probably going to be a very Oscar-y, buzzy movie. But I'm very excited to see it. I am very pleased with this director's output so far. And the trailer is one of those that really kind of gets at the heartstrings really quickly. And I'm excited to see it.
And it's especially relevant with all the stuff that's going on.
Right.
So we move on to November 11th with I think a rather large movie, but that you've seen, called Arrival. It looks fantastic. It's got Amy Adams in it.
Jeremy Renner, Forrest Whitaker.
And it's about the arrival of aliens.
Yes.
That's all I know about it.
It's amazing. It's one of the best films of the year. Amy Adams plays a linguist who, during this course of the film, she's had some tragedy in her life. And I can't spoil it too much because the film kind of loops in on itself time-wise in a weird way. And I don't want to explain how that works, but it's...
If this turns into Interstellar, I'm going to be mad.
It isn't. But it's different. She's hired by... These 12 ships show up on Earth. And she's not hired, but taken away by the U.S. Army along with a scientist played by Jeremy Renner, who's really good, and I'm glad to see him in a role like this, who basically are the front line of communication in the American ship, because they're all over the world, in the American ship to try to communicate with these aliens. And they're very... I like that the movie doesn't hide them. You see them pretty early on.
The aliens?
They look like advanced octopi. They have hands, but their hands are tentacles, kind of. And they communicate through this very strange drawing on this glass wall. It looks like basically if you set a coffee cup down, you pick it up, and the coffee ring of the cup is basically what it looks like. But in their communications, we suddenly start to realize that their language isn't just a language of symbols, but a language of the mechanics of time. It's a very complex science fiction ideas that are done in a very interesting way. The man who directed it is named Denis Villeneuve, and he directed a film called Prisoners a couple of years ago with Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal, which is really good.
Yeah, that was a creepy.
Yeah, it's a good film. This one is a science fiction film about ideas. You go in expecting stuff blowing up, you went to the wrong movie. I described this film in a long line of films from The Day the Earth Stood Still and Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
So it's going to be more along the Contact version than War of the Worlds.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm not the biggest fan of the movie Contact.
No, I was just putting that as because Contact is not a blockbuster shoot 'em up.
Yeah, the ideas of Contact are different than the ideas of this movie. Amy Adams is incredible. I think this is the best role she's ever done. And the reason I love her part in this so much is that because when you have a movie like this, a science fiction film with a heroine like with a heroine cast in it, the lead, they tend to militarize that person or make them
masculine. They make them proxy men.
Yeah, they don't do that to Amy Adams in this film. She is constantly struggling to understand these aliens, to try to communicate. It's a movie about communication and yearning to find common ground with something that is totally alien to our entire idea of how things are. And as the film progresses and we start to understand what is happening, and I can't spoil it. It's hard to. It's actually kind of difficult to spoil, but I don't. There are things that can be spoiled.
It would take too long to spoil.
Well, the
explanation. So
the idea is that we live in linear time, but time is actually not linear. Time is, the more that Amy Adams' character discovers about these creatures, the more she becomes to understand that we're not in a river, we're in an ocean. You know, when I say that, time is like a river, but we're not in a river, we're in an ocean. And it's a great movie. The special effects are really awesome. It's really well thought out. It's very, very smart. And then the last act kicks in and get a box of Kleenex.
Does it have a good payoff? Because a lot of these...
I thought the payoff was incredible.
Because a lot of these movies do a great job of setting it up, and then like the last act, or sometimes even that last half an hour, goes off a cliff because it's hard to tie all those strings together once you start throwing them out there. You talk about putting yourself in a corner. A lot of great movies have horrible endings because they went too big and they got too complex and they weren't able to bring it together.
This isn't like that. This puts a complex science fiction ideas in the hands of really relatable to understand it. This is based on a short story by Peter Chang, and it won the Hugo. It's very smart, very emotional, very powerful movie. Highly recommend Arrival. It's incredible.
Now, there's another movie that I had read about when I was putting this together, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be released big enough to talk about. But then when we did our little pregame show here, we're getting ready, you're like, oh, we got to talk about this. And this is Elle, which is female, E-L-L-E-L.
Yeah, it's a French film directed by not a French director, Paul Verhoeven. His first film in 10 years. If people aren't familiar with Paul Verhoeven, he directed RoboCop and Starship Troopers and Total Recall. Make these big science fiction, bloody spectacular.
Didn't he do Basic Instinct?
Basic Instinct. Really films that aren't really complicated on the surface, right? I'll put it that way. But Elle, to me, is pretty brilliant. At the same time, it's a movie kind of hesitant to talk about a little bit. It's a movie. I'll just tell you what it's about. Isabelle Huppert plays a woman who is a CEO at a video game company. Helps design video games. She's very smart. She's very driven. She has a darker past, and the things that happen in her past are kind of what drives her. She's a woman who does not really let people in, even as close as her own son. She doesn't let people in. She's very afraid of being hurt. I don't want to say that. She's not afraid of being hurt. She's got her shields up big time. And what happens is that she's brutally raped in her house. And instead of the classical the victimization kind of going for revenge kind of thing, she kind of brushes it off as something that's happened. And she gets along with her life. And then things start to occur with her, and we find out who the rapist was. We find out pieces of her life and how she organizes her life. And for a lot of women who see this film, and I completely understand, they will be mad. They will be very angry at how this movie tells its story. Because the fact is, it's a movie directed and written by a man, and how can he have the perspective that he has? But I think Elle is a very, very strong film, and Isabelle Huppert is one of the best performances I've seen in a long time. Amy Adams was great in Arrival, but this one is next level Daniel Day-Lewis stuff, and she's incredible in it. It's not a date movie. Okay, if you take somebody to see this, who will have a very differing opinion of you or of how you perceive this film, maybe it's not a movie you want to take on a date. Arrival you can take on a date, okay, but this one maybe not so much. I think it's a masterpiece, but that's how I come at it. I'm coming at it from my gender perspective. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily. I mean, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong, and I'm not saying anybody who comes at this from a different perspective is going to be right or wrong. It's going to be a very uncomfortable movie to talk about. When I talked about it with people at Fantastic Fest, I said, I came out of Elle, what'd you think? And the look on their face kind of glaring at me. It's like, okay, I'm not going to talk about this movie with you because you can't. You know, everybody has what they brought to it, and there are some people who are going to be deeply offended by what Verhoeven has done here. I think it's a brilliant film, but you know what? If you don't, I fully acknowledge your viewpoint. You know, it's it's for a director who's made very controversial films throughout his career. This may be his most controversial.
Wow. So. Well, let's move on to someone who's less controversial. I believe she's universally loved, except for people who are also rich. I've noticed that she gets more crap from people because she gives her money away than versus is J.K. Rowling. And we thought Harry Potter was over with. Then she wrote The Cursed Child, which was a play.
Yeah, I loved that book. Actually, it was really good.
Then she came up with not a sequel, but a spin-off.
Yeah, I think
it was a supplementary book about all the creatures, and then they've made a movie out of it.
Yeah,
it's called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And my wife is really excited about it because she's a huge Harry Potter fan.
I'm very excited about it. It
looks great.
This is the opportunity for J.K. Rowling to blow up her world. Until now, we've all been stuck in this little school in England. We haven't seen the wider wizarding world, and now we're going to see that. It's practically like the Marvel Universe kind of exploding because we're going to have now that she's already kind of exploded it on her website on Pottermore, where she's got this the new school that's not new, but she's talked about the schools in America and Africa and South America, and I think there's another one in Asia. There's 7 or 8 of them left, and so she's kind of expanding her world. She's expanding her stories, and this takes place in America at the turn of the century. And now they've announced that they're going to do 4 more of these. It's basically going to be a 5-film series.
Yeah, I'm sure they waited because it was mostly done, and they were looking at it and they're going, "Oh, this is really good," which can be, and I think it's pretty easy, thing to commit to because it's Harry Potter.
Yeah, I mean they've got the money, they've got the fan base. It's just going to be a big Warner Brothers thing,
and it looks like they've got the cast.
Yeah, they've got a really good cast. I'm really excited to see it, but more importantly, I'm excited for what it means because it means that we're going to get different stories out of the wizarding world. I would love to see what was it like to be a wizard in Africa, going to the wizarding school in Africa. I would like to see what it would have been like in Asia. I think the idea that the wizards are
British,
British, or I'm glad that this opens it up for everything, and we have such a great cast in this. It looks like Colin Farrell's playing the villain, maybe?
No, I don't know, but he plays an established sorcerer. A wizard. He's the established. He's the American.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he's the American Dumbledore. Because I can't tell because I haven't seen the clips I've seen. I don't see him doing anything that really establishes whether he's doing something bad or good. He's just doing magic.
Right.
And I think we may be projecting onto him of what it is.
And I'm totally drawing a blank on
the main character.
Yeah.
So am I, because I was like, who is his name? He played Stephen Hawking.
He played Stephen Hawking, and I can see all the movies he's been in, and he's been in Jupiter Ascending, and I'm going to have to put out my phone.
And he was awful in Jupiter Ascending. I don't care what anybody says.
I love that movie. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, I know you don't. And my wife and I were mad at you for days because it's like Alan said, go see Jupiter Ascending, and it was just awful.
Yeah, and
he was the worst in it. In fact, I wanted to take his Oscar away.
Eddie Redmayne.
Eddie Redmayne.
There you go. I can't remember. I'm terrible.
He was in The Danish Girl, which he deserved.
Yeah. I love Jupiter Ascending, but I know it's not for everybody. But I loved it because of how kitsch it is. But Eddie Redmayne's playing the main character who has written these great books. He is from England. The character is from England.
Yes.
He's written books about basically monsters, and he basically wanders the world looking for different creatures, and makes his way to America. I think he's chasing an elusive creature here to America.
And I can't tell if it's historically. It seems like it's like the turn of the century versus.
Yeah, it takes place in like a 1912 or something like that.
Yeah, so it's not current day like Harry Potter is set. This one seems more of a story back in the day.
And there's a theory floating around that these 5 movies are going to kind of lead us into the origin of Voldemort. I really hope that that's not true. I want these things to be their own thing, right? I don't need them to lead into other things. Harry Potter and all the things that happen in that are in England. I want this to be whatever things happen in America, even though we're going to have Eddie Redmayne as the main character who's British. No offense. But, I want...
Well, it just connects
it's like in Star Wars where everybody's related to everybody practically, and I'm okay with that because that's kind of been established from the very beginning, but I kind of don't want that for this. I want this to expand the wizarding world in so much different ways. I'm very excited to see how they do that. And from what I've heard through the grapevine, it's really, really good.
I've heard nothing but good things.
Yeah.
And you have something that you think is going to be Oscar-worthy.
Yeah, it's a movie that played Sundance this year that did very well. I won't talk it for very long. It's starring Casey Affleck. It's called Manchester by the Sea. It's directed by a gentleman named Kenneth Lonergan, who directed You Can Count on Me a few years back with Mark Ruffalo. And another name I'm blanking on, which is terrible. That movie's great. Kenneth Lonergan is a director who really likes the basic human stories. This movie is about a gentleman who moves back home to take care of his nephew after his brother dies. And a lot of high buzz out of this film coming out of Sundance, and it's been reviewed fairly widely now. I haven't seen it yet myself, but I've heard it's great, and this is one to keep an eye out for if you're looking for the the awards caliber kind of film. This is Manchester by the Sea is one you need to look for.
And of course, we move into the true holiday season, so the week of Thanksgiving. Obviously, that's going to be a huge family movie, which is why we've got Disney putting out their Moana. Moana, which is a Polynesian. I don't know if it's an original story or a myth that they've adapted.
Yeah, I think it's an adapted myth from Hawaiian legend and Polynesian legend.
We got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, apparently the only Polynesian anybody knows in Hollywood, and he's the main attraction. He's the star of it,
and he's got an interesting singing voice. It's a musical.
Is he singing, or does he have someone else?
No,
singing
he's singing. I don't think you let him do it if it wasn't him. He's singing. It looks really fun, and it looks.
It's Disney.
Yeah,
it's the Disney caliber we're expecting.
Yeah, it looks really fun. I love the idea of Dwayne Johnson. Basically, I believe he's playing some sort of a deity or something like that. I'm not sure. The key thing to remember about Moana is if there are any Hamilton fans out there, Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote Hamilton, has written the songs for this film, a lot of the songs for this film. And I'm a huge, gigantic Hamilton fan.
Almost to the point where I'm worried. I mean, we know each other, but we're our Facebook friends. I see you post.
Have you listened to Hamilton?
I have not, because I want to see it in its entirety.
You don't need to.
I know I don't need to. It's not a need. It's a want.
I know.
I want to go in there completely surprised. So because I think you can fall in love with something by the music, and then you see the show, and it's not nearly
I
as
know
good.
what to expect from the show, because I know it can't be as big as the story that I've built up in my mind. I understand that as a play, but the Hamilton soundtrack is no shit. I'm going to say shit. No shit.
Now I got to put the explicit tag on.
All right, you can bleep that out.
Nope,
okay,
I'm not doing that. It requires extra work.
Is one of the seminal works of the 21st century.
Well, that's what I hear. That's why I'm keeping it secret, because I've heard Les Miserables music for years. Mm-hmm. Finally saw the play like 2 years ago, and I'm like, really? This is what everybody's going crazy about? Because that sucked.
Well, everything that if you listen to Hamilton, though, and you listen to the story behind the film, behind the play, and listen to the characters, and listen to the songcraft, and you play that, basically, I've been playing Hamilton in my head for about a year now. I'm fully okay with the play not being up to my expectations. I can't imagine it won't be, because I've had friends who done like I've done.
You haven't seen it?
I haven't seen Hamilton.
I thought you would have finagled your way in.
No, but I've
somehow.
got friends who've seen it. I've got friends who saw it, though. A really good friend of mine online, Wendy, she saw Hamilton the week of the Emmys, and she was blown away by it. But she's very much a theater person, too. I'm not worried about that. What is great is that Lin-Manuel Miranda has written this really special piece of music, and the fact that he's writing it for a Disney movie is great. The man's won an Emmy. He hasn't won an Emmy. He's won a Grammy. He's won a Pulitzer. He's won the Tony. See, you have what they call
EGOT.
EGOT, but he could be a PGOT.
A Peagot.
Yeah, because he won the Pulitzer as well. So I mean, he might get the Oscar for songwriting for Moana. I don't know if he's ever been nominated for an Emmy, but hey, they could play a show. They could just stick him onto something. He'll get an Emmy, and they'll have all 5.
He could get I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a special Emmy for the Saturday Night Live because that opening.
That was great. Well,
great.
The Hamilton's America documentary is also it came out on PBS this week.
Well,
not this week,
I'm sure
but-
there's going to be opportunities.
Yeah.
I will say that his song in Star Wars was weak.
Well, it's for the moment, and it wasn't really.
I know.
Yeah.
But it was weak. It was just saying Jabba over a couple times, and it's like, so we have to establish that Jabba the Hutt is this big intergalactic name that everybody loves. And it's like, come on, it's Hamilton, only fat and evil.
Well, I would see Jabba if Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote it. I would see that play.
Jabba the musical.
I would see that if he wrote that. I would see Jabba. Yeah.
So we go from kids to Disney to the exact opposite, to the extreme. I mean, I was going to pass on this because I'm thinking, oh, it's Alan. He's a movie guy. He's above this. And
No, Bad Santa's great. Bad Santa 2 is going to be even better.
Bad Santa, the first one was fantastic.
Yeah.
If you like crude humor, because I know some people are uptight when it comes to comedy, and they're like, "Oh, why do they have to swear so much? Why do they have to be the?" Shut up! It was funny.
It's not just funny
at a base level.
It's smart.
No, I know that. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, but it's funny at a base level. So if
Yeah.
you can't just, as a dummy, walk in there and laugh at something, there's something wrong with your brain.
Like my favorite line from that movie is, "You used to be a lot fatter, right?" And he goes, "Yes, but then I dated a woman who wasn't clean."
And it had John Ritter in it, which
Yeah,
was his last one. So
yeah,
I hate to bring all sad, but Bad Santa 2 it looks like it's just a continuation.
There are 2 people that are no longer with us, not just John Ritter, but darn it, blank on names again. The gentleman who was a security guard in the first one.
His buddy.
Yeah, and
I can't remember his name because he wasn't that big of an actor, unfortunately.
well, no, he was.
Was
he
he?
had his own show. He had his I'm blanking on the name.
Oh,
now.
not Bernie Mac.
Bernie Mac.
Oh, that's why, because I was getting him confused with somebody
Yeah,
else.
Bernie Mac.
Bernie
and,
Mac's not there.
But everybody else looks to be coming back, including that weird kid.
But now who's not a kid anymore.
He's not a kid. He's a strange-looking adult, and I could see why Hollywood would not have put him in anything since. I don't mean to be mean, but
it's Will Wheaton syndrome.
Yeah, but the fact that they got him back for this is just astounding to me. The trailer that I've seen so far, a little bit on the nose in comparison to the first one, because they're trying to get that audience back, so they're doing things a little more,
They're reassuring people that it's the same thing.
Yeah, but
and I don't think Bad Santa made a lot of money at the box office, but it did in like DVDs and rentals and
Christmas movies tend to do that now. They don't necessarily have to make a lot of money at the box office. They have life on television and on
Do you think
everything
TBS
else.
is going to show this for 24 hours? I don't think so.
Probably not, but
Comedy Central should. That's what they should do.
Yeah.
Just show Bad Santa for 24 hours, and then you can just switch between Christmas Story
Yeah.
and Bad Santa.
Totally.
So it's. I think we all know if you saw Bad Santa, I think this is not going to be groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah.
But it'll be fun. It looks fun. And
I think it'll be great.
and
I'm looking forward to it.
And anytime Billy Bob Thornton can be a miserable prick, he's funny. So there's certain people who do certain things perfectly. Like Kevin Spacey is great at being a prick.
Yeah.
So Billy Bob Thornton.
Say, I'm going to do the weirdest, most awkward segue ever. So Billy Bob Thornton and the star of our next film share a breakup relationship.
Yeah, they share a wife, which is so. Then that's the other movie. So now we go from kids, raunchy comedy to now Oscar worthy.
Yeah.
Because I'm hearing the buzz on this is very good. Called Allied, and this is Brad Pitt and Marion Cotillard in a Robert Zemeckis film. Which whenever he does a non-CGI movie nowadays, I get a little excited because I think he needs to get away from those.
Yeah.
He spent so many years, almost like a decade and a half, entrenched.
Yeah, he kind of went down a rabbit hole a little bit, and then
Yeah.
he kind of came back with Flight, and then
Well, he did What Lies Beneath in between. But the funny part about What Lies Beneath, which made Harrison Ford a villain, is that was just something to do while Tom Hanks either gained or lost weight between Castaway. But it was all CGI, if it wasn't just pure CGI like his Christmas Story and things like that.
Beowulf.
Yeah, he was doing CGI heavy stuff. And I like to see him come back to reality.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for this movie. Although to be vain and really superficial, Brad Pitt he's had work done.
He's a Botox for Brad.
I don't know. He just he
looks
looked
different.
older, and now he doesn't look as old anymore. Maybe that's just really good makeup.
Yeah,
but,
we'll give them a makeup Oscar.
yeah, we'll give him that.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt until I haven't seen his face, and I you can do whatever you want in a business that's cutthroat, and I understand that, and you have the right to do whatever you want to your own body.
Yep.
But there's way too many people who get the plastic surgery, and it's just butchered, and they all look alike. I mean, you can tell they've got plastic surgery because it's very similar. They've got the same crooked smile. They've got a smooth head. I mean, even Bob Costas, when I saw him at the Olympics, I was like, "Come on, Bob."
Yeah.
What you take a woman like Diane Keaton, who, if she's had plastic surgery, it's very little and very subtle. She looks fantastic. For her age. Sigourney Weaver looks.
Yeah,
we
she
both
does.
saw her
Yeah.
this year in person. Beautiful.
Yeah, she looks amazing. And I'm not saying that's happened to Brad Pitt. I'm just saying that the crow's feet are not as prominent as they used to be. But
The crow's feet's got some socks on.
It maybe so. But this is an interesting film. It's about a woman played by Marion Cotillard who marries Brad Pitt. She's a spy for the Americans against the Nazis. And then
I'm assuming she's a French spy because I've never seen her play an American with an American accent.
And then later, during they I guess they ostensibly fall in love, and then later it turns out that she may or may not be a spy for the Russians. I think, so he's
not like a double spy. But since the
like
Russians
a
were our
triple agent
allies
in a weird way.
Yeah, but since the Russians were our allies at the beginning of World War II, that she's not. And then it was just that's a weird little triangle that they've got to play,
like a triple, a triple agent or something. Again, it's directed by Robert Zemeckis, which automatically pricks my attention up. So I'm excited to see this one. I don't know a whole lot about it otherwise. It does look kind of Oscar baity, but it also, I mean,
that's why it's coming out in November.
It looks, there's a lot of dramatic stuff, but it also looks fairly thrilling, kind of a mystery kind of thing, which it looks exciting, and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah. Then we get to December. And here's something rare you don't see too often: a true musical, which means it's a live-action musical, not a cartoon.
And the music isn't based on.
It's an original.
It's original material.
So you're right. It's not that Moulin Rouge where they've taken old rock songs and found a way to wedge them into a show. This is a musical with original music with the songs for the actual plot.
Starring Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone.
Now, I know Emma Stone can sing because I've heard her sing before.
I've never heard Ryan Gosling sing before, but but he seems. I mean, from the little snippets I've heard, he seems to have a fine voice. It's La La Land. If you don't know the title yet, this is going to be the movie of the year for me. I have a feeling. I really do. Other than Star Wars, obviously, but
Are you a sucker for musicals?
I love musicals.
Really?
And I love original musicals. That more than anything. We haven't had an original musical in a long time.
And they don't do well
musical
usually.
written for the film. Songs written for the movie and not based on previous stuff. That's a long time ago since we had that. And what really excites me, and it should excite you because I know that you love this director, it's directed by Damien Chazelle. He directed Whiplash.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so this guy already knows music. He has an ear for it. He has an affinity for it. He knows how to time a scene. Like that last 20 minutes of Whiplash is practically musical anyway. I mean, the way it's cut and edited, and it's exciting to watch and to feel and to listen to. And from what I heard, La La Land is the same, which means that this movie is my expectation is probably going to be the best film of the year. I'm expecting that. I shouldn't expect that of a movie, right? I should have totally expectations just totally blank. But this one is one I'm really, really excited to see.
Well, as long as the story is good, because I think that's what happens in musicals, which is why they get a bad rap, or deservedly a bad rap, in my opinion, is that they often focus too much on the songs because it's a musical, and they have to have, and the story is weak because it's a weak story where they throw in these musicals because they spend too much time trying to make the songs as good as possible, and then you get the story, and I can't remember who's a very famous musical director said when you do a musical, you can't have too many plot strings. You've got to pick one or two. You can't have 5 or 6 like you could normally do in a regular movie because otherwise it gets bogged down. And so you got to stay with those two.
Here's the thing: I watch musicals like I watch kung fu movies. Okay?
Drunk and angry?
No.
Oh, no.
In a kung fu movie, when they fight, it's because there is no other option left. Must happen. This person must fight this person, and it must come to completion. It must be something that happens that's changed the story afterwards. Musicals are the same way. When they sing, it's because they have no other choice. There is no other way to express their emotion. There is no other way to move the plot forward than to belt a song. And after that song has been sung, the movie has shifted. It has changed. That's why I love musicals, because I watch them like kung fu movies. And I'm very excited for La La Land. I don't know what else to say about it, because I've been reading critics' reactions over the past 2 or 3 months saying, don't miss this movie. Oh my God, it's incredible. And I loved Whiplash very much. It turns out, that's interesting. When I remember you saying at the time when we did the podcast for the Oscars that year, that was the one movie you wanted everything to win, because that was, out of all the selections they had, that was probably your favorite.
Well, I thought it was the most well-rounded.
Yeah.
I mean, if you took the categories that it was nominated in, they really did a great job in those. It's not like I love the movie so much so I want it to win. Like Star Wars, it's I want John Williams to win every time he's nominated because he's the maestro.
Yeah.
But does that mean he had the best song that year? I don't know. All I know is John Williams, even now, because I'm playing the Lego Force Awakens.
I have that at the house. I haven't played it yet.
And I'm hearing the new themes, like Ray's theme is so beautiful. Mm-hmm. That's all new. It's a combination of stuff, but there's a lot of unique new things to it, and it's like, that's why. So I will want him to win no matter what.
Right.
But it's not. But in Whiplash's case, it was because I thought each category that they were nominated in, they did a great job because that movie was so well rounded. And of course, J.K. Simmons,
he's incredible.
He's the linchpin. If it wasn't for him, I don't think the movie would be any good.
Thing about Whiplash, looking back on it,
he made Miles Teller look good.
Yeah. Thing about Whiplash, looking back on it, is that it's a movie that looks better the further away you get from it. It's one of those, well, I could sit down and watch this one, and it's not going to be a chore, right? There's a lot of Oscar films that, they're great and everything, but you'll never watch them again.
I can't watch the English.
You'll never watch them again. Whiplash is just too well paced, too well done to not want to enjoy again. And it's a movie that I have revisited since it's come out. I imagine La La Land is going to be the same.
Well, one thing that you wanted to bring up this particular weekend as well is one that's gotten a lot of acclaim, especially for the actress. I don't know if it's going to be a good movie or not, but the portrayal, it's called Jackie. Mm-hmm. Natalie Portman, who looks just like her.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see all the pictures of her dressed up, it's like, wow, they cast that one really well. That comes out, that's what I would call, even if she took the part for other reasons, that's an Oscar bait movie.
Oh, definitely. But it looks great, though. I mean, that little snippet of the trailer we saw, the one shot in her in the shower washing JFK's blood off her body, that was disturbing. I mean, it's not gratuitous or anything. It's just one of these shots where she's crying in the shower as the water runs over and the blood is dripping off her back. It was like, okay, they're not playing around. This looks really, really good. I'm actually not very familiar with the director. I don't know what else he's done, because when I saw the name come up, it didn't look familiar to me. But she looks tremendously great in this. And from the buzz that I've heard of her performance, that she's very, very good. Jackie comes out that same weekend. And again, we're getting in that Oscar territory, and it may be Oscar baity, but I don't mind Oscar baity if it's a good movie, and it looks like it's going to be very good.
All right, and then we get to December 9th, another comedy that you don't know about. I've seen it. It's got Kate McKinnon in it.
You've seen the movie?
No, I've seen the trailer.
Okay. Yeah.
It's got, because when I told you about it, you're like, I have no idea what that is.
I love Kate McKinnon, so I'm down, but
Kate McKinnon is the only reason that Ghostbusters... I mean, I thought Ghostbusters was a good movie, but the only consistent, no matter where she is, what she's doing, background, foreground, her lines, nobody's line, was Kate McKinnon. She's like that on Saturday Night Live. She is the most talented person on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
She was the most talented person in a very talented... I mean, when Kristen Wiig's in something, I love Kristen Wiig. Yeah. Kate McKinnon was fantastic. Ghostbusters. She's in Office Party. She plays a weird, almost like a Target lady character at an office. It's about an office party that goes awry. It's got Jason Bateman in it, Olivia Munn. It's got...
It's going to be the big comedy film.
Yeah,
of
it's
the
a big.
season.
It's a Christmas.
Office Christmas party. Okay.
The inappropriate Christmas party is what this is, and it's Office Christmas Party. That's what it is. I wanted to bring it up only because I love Kate McKinnon, and I wanted to give her some
No.
love.
The stuff that she's doing as Hillary on Saturday Night Live against Alec Baldwin right now.
Almost,
God!
She also
great.
does Trump's spokesperson too.
That's right. That's right.
She's great in everything. So only reason I brought it up, I don't know if the movie's any good, but Kate McKinnon's in it.
Oh, then it makes me want to go. I have to see it.
And I want people who don't know Kate McKinnon to find her. She is a discovery, and she is fantastic.
Yeah, I think I like Ghostbusters more than you, but
I thought it was okay.
But she is the shining star of that film for sure. And I'll see Office Christmas Party for her alone. That's great.
But also that week, you brought this up because it's another Amy Adams movie, which is she's always busy. But this is her fourth movie this year. Because I know she was in Batman v Superman.
Martha, sorry.
Called Nocturnal Animals by Tom Ford.
Yes. Tom Ford directed a movie called A Single Man a few years back with Colin Firth in it. And that got a really good reception. But, I mean, if you're in the world of fashion, you know who Tom Ford is. I don't have to tell you who that is. But he's as a film director, this is his second film. Nocturnal Animals is about a woman who's married to a writer who writes this book called Nocturnal Animals, which basically describes the murder of the writer's murder of his wife. And she begins to suspect that she might be in danger.
Sounds like a great alibi. You write the book.
Yeah.
Then it actually happens. The cops come and you say, there was a copycat. I would never do that. I just wrote that.
Yeah. Tom Ford has almost as good an eye in cinema as he does for fashion. He has a really interesting style. I'm really excited to see it for him alone because I think he's a really great director. And Amy Adams has done really great work this year. I don't want to say too much about Nocturnal Animals because I don't know a whole lot more about it than what I've said, but the fact that Tom Ford's directed it and Amy Adams is starring, I only hope that if she's as good in this as she is in Arrival, she may cancel herself out in a kind of awards kind of thing. But otherwise, yeah, I'm genuinely interested in this one for sure.
Well, then we get to the huge, massive, immovable object on the schedule, and with the more information, the more trailers that come out, the more excited I get. And I'm thinking this could be the best of the bunch for these folks. Rogue One, a Star Wars story. The shackles are off, to quote Donald Trump. They've taken one tiny plot piece that they only spoke about in two lines. And people always quote the wrong movie because they think it's
not the Bothans. The Bothans have nothing to do with it. Well, they might be in it some way, but
I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
But it's the story of how one woman and her rogue gallery steal the Death Star plans. And so they just so that's the one piece, but it's a huge opening of the universe that we've not had that wasn't Skywalker related. Mm-hmm. And this is something that I've been waiting for because I read the books that are not canon, not the Star Walker stuff. I would always get the Smuggler's Tales, which was a little anthology of little things that are happening in the periphery. And I always loved the periphery. I'm not a big Skywalker fan. I'm a Han Solo fan.
Yeah, I'm a Skywalker guy, but yeah.
Yeah, I know that. That's why. But I like the stuff that's happening way over in the edges. But Skywalker's always happening in the core. So this is finally the edges coming through, and I think that because they don't have the leash of they have to follow. They're following canon, but they're not following. Yeah,
they're kind of restrained because they're dealing with story stuff that's been addressed,
but not really not that much. Because like I said, it was only talked about in two sentences, and so it's so vague that they can really do anything.
We know they steal the plans. We know they succeed. How they do it is another way entirely. I'll go flat out and say this. This is the most important Star Wars film to be released because this is the one that establishes the universe. If this film doesn't work, Star Wars is dead on the ground other than the Skywalker saga and the episodes 8 and 9, however that works, okay? So to me, I got more invested than this than I actually do in Episode 7 because this is the opportunity for Star Wars to be bigger than the Skywalker saga. This is the opportunity for us to really explore the universe, to find different things to talk about. We could talk about two Jedis on a rogue planet far off in the galaxy. We have nothing idea. It has no connection to anything. We can talk about and we can talk about an imperial general or something who decides to not take part in the empire anymore, or we can have to talk about the empire at all.
We can talk about a bunch of bounty hunters that are just picking up somebody who has unrelated to anything we've ever heard, but how they live in that world.
So this is the opportunity for us to explore the Star Wars universe. So in a way, it's the most important film of the release. I am an Akira Kurosawa fan. I love films like Seven Samurai and The Hidden Fortress, which is, oddly enough, Star Wars is loosely based on. This feels like a Kurosawa movie, where it's the gathering of the team. The team goes to do an objective. And the idea that Felicity Jones, if you've seen the cast, you know who the white guys are. They're the villains, I love the idea that Felicity Jones is heading up this team of rogue agents. I don't know if they're bounty hunters or just criminals or whoever they are. We don't know a whole lot about it yet. That last trailer was really, really good, though. It's just a lot of the emotional stuff in it. We get to see Darth Vader. We get to see the Death Star. It looks beautiful. Some of the shots of the Death Star are amazing. Ideas that you never had. There's one shot of it upside down, orbiting a planet. That is just amazing. A lot of stuff that we've never seen before in Star Wars. We're watching a war on the ground floor. We've seen war being orchestrated in spaceships, and now we're actually invested in these guys running on the ground, being chased by walkers, being blasted by stormtroopers. It's a big movie for me. I'm overwhelmingly excited for Rogue One, more so than a lot of other stuff, because of course I'm a Star Wars guy. But
and no promises, but we're going to try to do what we did last year.
Yeah,
if possible. I know that you've got a extremely busy schedule nowadays. But we're gonna hopefully we'll see it at a press screening, but I doubt it.
If they press screen it, they'll probably do what they did with the last one and do it in the middle of the day, which is gonna be terrible.
Which I will definitely go to.
Yeah,
if I'm invited. But we're gonna try to do a special Christmas Rogue One spoiler episode.
Absolutely,
because I agree. Everything you said, I do think this is an important movie. Not like it's going to be a life-changing movie for people, but I think it's going to be a very important movie for the franchise to move forward, especially with all the plans that they've got. Mm-hmm. And they've got lots of plans. A movie a year for 20 years.
Yeah.
Alternating the storyline that we know, the Star Wars legitimate, 8, 9, 10, and then these side movies that they're going to be every other year.
I actually hope that they end that at 9. After I don't know a whole lot, but I know they're doing one every year. But I hopefully they don't do the episode thing anymore.
That was just me screwing up.
They could do another trilogy with a whole different set of characters and a whole different set of circumstances.
Well, I think that's what they're trying to do.
They should get to that. That would be great.
All right. And then, since we're well over an hour here, we're going now. But we're seeing. I'm going to put some things that you've actually seen, and that's the important part. Because also coming out that week is something that seems like it's definitely not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
But it's got people in it I like. I mean, who doesn't like Brian Cox?
Yeah.
If you don't know who he is, you're crazy. But you will when you see him. The Autopsy of Jane Doe, which is a horror movie.
Yes.
You saw this one.
Yeah, I saw this at Fantastic Fest. It's terrifying. It's about this father-son coroners. They've used their whole lives working for this one county, performing autopsies, making cause of death, and it's been handed down from generation to generation. They've done it for many years. And Brian Cox is Tony Tilden, and his son is Emil Hirsch, and they're kind of a team on it. Recently, Brian Cox's and Emil Hirsch's mother's died, Brian Cox's wife. They're trying to piece together in their minds why this happened. It seems like it may be a suicide. We're not sure. But a body comes in kind of late at night that has no visible scars on it, no visible reason why she's dead. They don't even her name. They call her Jane Doe. And as they perform the autopsy, strange things start happening in the mortuary. Things that they can't explain. These two people sort of science who are actually looking for the cause of death, who are actually getting hands-on, but things are happening that don't make sense. And the more they do the autopsy, the more horrible things start to occur. It's a scary movie. I was gripping the side of my armrest on it about halfway through, but it's also very smart. When things start really going bad at one point in the film, that's when they don't do that. Well, let's see how this goes out. They do that. We need to get out of here now, and the kind of thing. And Brian Cox is really, really great in it. It's a smaller film. It's going to be released at a time where it's probably not going to get a lot of noise, unfortunately. But as horror films go, and this has been a fantastic year for horror films, if you've been looking, if you've been paying attention, movies like The Witch and Green Room and this and other films that have come out, you keep an ear out, because there's been some great horror films coming out this year. If that's your genre, I know it's not yours.
Oh, not my cup of tea.
But Autopsy of Jane Doe is a fantastic horror film. It's scary, it's emotional, it's got really great characters and really genuinely great performances. Brian Cox does a performance in this that it's not a kind of movie that you would nominate Oscars for, because people don't understand that roles like this are hard work. To make audiences believe in the terrible and the horrifying that is happening, you have to have actors who feel like that they're genuinely experiencing it. Brian Cox is really, really good in this movie. It might be one of his best roles ever.
And he's good in almost everything he does.
Yeah.
He's one of those character actors that you see all the time, and sometimes he's in a big blockbuster, other times he's in a small British film, but everywhere you see him, he's always good. And sometimes he's in Super Troopers, for God's sakes.
Yeah, I love Brian Cox, and this is definitely one of his best films. It's a really great movie. The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Seek it out. It'll probably be on VOD not much longer after theatrical release, but see it in the theater if you can. It is a theatrical experience. It is a theatrical experience, especially when everybody starts screaming towards the end, because it's crazy.
Especially when people start screaming.
Yeah.
So now we got December 21st. We got two big blockbusters. One I've been hearing mixed things about, and one I've not been hearing anything about, except the fact that there's two big, super handsome, beautiful people in it. So the first one is Assassin's Creed with Michael Fassbender.
Yeah.
Immediately, it's got Fassbender in it. It's produced by Fassbender, so he wants to be in it.
Yeah.
Which is an important distinction. I always make sure that once they make the producer credit on there, not executive producer, which they just paying money, producer credit.
He's a huge fan of the game. Basically, if you played Assassin's Creed, it's the game. It's about a guy who's been sentenced to death. He believes they inject him. He thinks he's died. He wakes up in this odd location. They're saying, "Look, we're gonna hook you up to this computer called the Animus, and you're gonna basically relive your ancestors." It's just like the game.
And the theory is that your DNA retains memories of your ancestors. So, I don't know how they separate it from your mom and your dad and your grandmother and your grandfather and then all these other people, because they go so far back in time. Basically, it's like a time machine, except you're actually, the Animus projects whatever time frame you're in. And most of the time, it's like 13th or 14th century.
Right.
And so he was part of these assassins who the Templars are their enemies, and it's quite an interesting game. They get repetitive, but the game's fun.
I've never been the biggest fan of the Assassin's Creed games. It's because they're repetitive. I love the trailer, though, and I'll tell you why. The trailer, first off, if you played the game and you've seen the trailer, well, you should be happy, because it looks... That's the game. But that one shot where he jumps off that tall spire that falls down into the cart, and I'm going, wow, that's a save point.
Here's a cutscene. Here's a save point. And it'll be interesting to see how they do a lot of the stuff they do in that, because in the game, it's impossible. It's physically impossible to jump 200 stories, land in your back in a pile of hay that's only about 4 inches thick. But we'll see. One of the concerns that I have is I think they may spend too much time in the present.
That's what I've heard. I've heard.
The fun part is going into the past.
Yeah, and I've heard that, and I may be wrong. I'm just conjecturing, because I've heard the rumor has it is that the past stuff is only like a third of the film. I hope that's not true.
I think they're setting up for sequels, and that's the problem. I hate when they automatically assume that they're going to have 2 or 3 more of these. And I understand you have to set it up, but you have to have a story first.
Yeah.
And so we've seen this happen before with people where they spend too much time setting up the future.
Yeah, and I get irritated because that means that they're not paying attention to the movie that they're making.
Right.
Episode 7 kind of had that problem.
I didn't feel so much as Episode 7. It was much more in the Batman movies. Not the Batman movies, the Superman movies.
Yeah.
It always feels like they're building towards something else. I mean, in that Batman v Superman, they literally put trailers of all the superheroes. At the very end, she's like, "Oh, it's like she's surfing the net. She's just like us." She clicks on a file that Bruce Wayne sends her that doesn't even need to be in the movie.
We don't have the time of day to talk about how crappy Batman v Superman is.
I know.
All I can say is Martha. Okay, anyway, move on past that. I hated that movie so much.
Well, then we get to what I think is they're really banking on 2 celebrities that are really hot right now, both physically and monetarily. Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence together in a. I don't know what this movie. I know what the movie's about, but I don't know what kind of movie it is. Is it a sci-fi thriller?
Science fiction. It's called.
It's science fiction. I got that. It's Passengers, but I don't know if it's a comedy. It's a romantic comedy. Is it a thriller? Basically,
it's all those things, kind of.
Well, I don't know if it's. I haven't seen anything funny at it.
Okay,
but Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence are in intergalactic travel. Chris Pratt is awake because everybody else is in time suspension, and he gets lonely and bored, and he opens up Jennifer Lawrence's.
Well, I'll put it this way: we practically kind of spoiled it.
That's what the movie's about.
Well, I know, but the trailer doesn't sell it like that. The trailer has them awake in the movie, and then he says, "I have something to tell you," which is basically. Here's this on it.
Now, do we have to rewind this and get rid of the spoilers?
No, well, we'll say it's a possible spoiler. We'll talk about it. But Chris Pratt plays a guy who's on board this spaceship. There's 100 passengers or 1,000 passengers, however. It's going the speed of light.
But it still takes 20 years to get to the next place.
Well, 100.
Oh, 100 this one?
So it's going to take a long time.
See, I don't know anything about the movie, so
Yeah.
if I know these little tidbits, which I just happen to pounce upon, I don't think they're spoilers because I'm not actively looking for passenger stuff.
So he wakes up. And it's a malfunction. He wakes up on the ship, and he wakes up fairly early into the journey, apparently. And he can't get back to sleep. He can't get back there. He's automatically doomed. He's never going to see the end of the journey because it's going to take hundreds of years to get there. So he's automatically going to die. And then Jennifer Lawrence wakes up. Whether or not he wakes her up or she wakes up on her own, I don't want to establish that. And then it comes that there's some sort of entity outside the ship that may be trying to stop them. We don't know a whole lot about it.
I don't know. Like I said, I literally don't know.
The trailer goes a long ways to trying to hide a lot of this stuff. The script, Passengers, is written by a writer named John Spates, who was actually a writer on Doctor Strange before Cargill came on. This script's been bouncing around Hollywood for a long time. It's one of those kind of, I don't think it was a blacklist script, but it's one of those scripts where studios loved it. They read it, said, let's make this movie, and just couldn't get it to happen. So it's been about, and I may be wrong on my time. I'm sure I'll be corrected by my colleagues. It's been floating around for about 15 years. And finally it got made. I think it's going to be a really cool movie. John Spates is a really good writer, and he has got some really great ideas for science fiction. He was one of the first drafts on Prometheus, and his Prometheus draft is far better than what ended up coming out. He has really got a keen analytical mind. This is an emotional story.
So it's not a comedy.
No. But I mean, it may have, it may have funny parts.
But it's not marketed as a romantic comedy.
No.
See, I don't know what it's about.
It's kind of a thriller
crazy.
/ romance kind of thing.
You'd think with those stars in it, we'd know more about it by now.
Yeah, well, it's okay. Well, I mean, the script is out there. If you want to know about Passengers, you can find the script and read it. It's out there. It's been out there for a long time because this movie's been bouncing around for years. I'm really excited to see it. I like everybody involved. And hopefully it'll be a very good movie. It looks, the cinematography looks great. The special effects look great. And I think Pratt and Lawrence have a really nice chemistry together, just from the snippets we've seen in the trailer. So I'm excited to see it.
Well, since I believe Christmas is on a weekend,
yeah,
I believe it's the Sunday.
Yeah,
the 25th is on because I think I do think there's a Christmas Eve football game, which is why I only know these things. On Monday, the 26th, which is an odd day for movies to come out on a Monday, but they always come out on a holiday. We only have so much time. I don't want to spend 4 hours talking about stuff, but I thought you wanted to bring up a couple movies. That one is a movie that has been made before, with some great actors, historically. So it's a remake called Fences. Originally done.
It's based on a play, yeah.
Yeah, but it was also a movie. They originally did it with James Earl Jones, who not only established it in the play, but also did the movie back in the 70s, I want to say.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I believe it's got Denzel Washington, who's playing the James Earl Jones part.
And he directed it.
He directed this as well. But he also, when he was younger, was in Fences with James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
And he played the young man version. I don't know who's in this one. So, but this is a remake with Denzel, it's going to be an emotional role. It's a famous role.
Yeah.
So talk about Fences a little bit.
Well, Fences is starring Denzel Washington as well as Viola Davis and McKelty Williamson.
Oh man, that's a
yeah.
Viola Davis is not a lightweight. She's
August Wilson with the screenplay and the play. It's going to be a heck of a movie. I'm really excited to see this one because this is a role that's very close to Denzel Washington's heart. Denzel Washington is maybe my top 5 favorite actors. I don't know what it is about him when I see him in a movie, but even when a movie is not working, he is always working. He has something going on underneath the surface. Even ostensibly a film like The Equalizer, which is just basically a revenge action thriller, he brings something to it that makes me want to watch it. I thought The Magnificent Seven, as a Seven Samurai freak and a Magnificent Seven fan, was a really terrific sequel, really terrific remake, and a lot of it was due to him. A lot of it was due to Chris Pratt as well, but Denzel Washington was tremendously great in it. This is a role that he's been wanting to do forever. He's directed films before, but this is the one he's been wanting to direct since the very beginning. He's gotten that opportunity now. I think Fences is going to be a hell of a movie. It's definitely going to be, people are going to be talking about it at Oscar time this year, and I'm dying to see it. It looks great.
Well, like I said, I'm very familiar with James Earl Jones' version of it. And so I'll be interesting to see how he does it. And one other thing you want to do, also basically a Christmas release, and this will be the last movie because we've gone way too long.
I know.
And I apologize, but I hope you enjoyed our times because I know these are one of our highest downloaded ones, so I'm not going to be too upset because I'll be honest with you, these are fun for me. These are the ones I look forward to, and if nobody listened, I would still love them. We've got Scorsese. Mm-hmm. Coming to, and when you say Scorsese, it's automatically an Oscar movie. He may not win, but it's an Oscar movie called Silence. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't remember it until you brought it up. It has Liam Neeson in it, and that's all I remember. So tell me what's going on with this, because when you have Liam Neeson and Scorsese together, I think this is their first movie together?
No, they've been in a movie together. Liam Neeson plays Leo DiCaprio's father in Gangs of New York.
Oh, Gangs of New York, that's right.
But this one has a lot of people in it. It's got Liam Neeson, it's got Andrew Garfield, it's got Adam Driver, Kieran Hines, a lot of Japanese actors such as Tadanobu Kano, and this is a film that I think Scorsese has had it in him from the very beginning. Scorsese has always been a huge Kurosawa fan. And I think that this may be him riffing on Kurosawa a little bit. It's a film about a couple of Jesuit priests who go into Japan to look for their mentor who's been there to convert people to Christianity.
And this is based on a true story.
I believe so.
Yeah.
And they face the violence and persecution as they're there. I'll see Scorsese movies at any time, no problem, drop of a hat. I'll see a Liam Neeson movie at the drop of a hat, and I'll see a Japanese 17th century movie at the drop of a hat, easy.
I'll see a Liam Neeson movie that's not an action movie anymore, because I'm getting a little... He's still good in them, but it's Al Pacino syndrome. He's the same guy in Taken 3.
Well, you know what? I don't like the Taken movies very much.
The airplane one was basically Taken on a plane.
Well, you know, if you saw last year's A Walk Among the Tombstones,
I did.
That's a good movie. I liked him a lot in that. It's
but
very
even
different.
Still, that was an alcoholic Taken.
Well, no, I think it's a genuine detective movie where he's trying to figure things out. But I like that a lot.
But he's just, it's a lot of him beating crap out of people and growling, and not that he doesn't do a good job at it. But when he actually acts, because think about this. This is the man who did Schindler's List. Mm-hmm. He was Oscar Schindler. What a unbelievable role that took a little bit more than just growling and punching people.
And no offense to Tom Hanks, but Liam Neeson should have won that year for that.
Oh yeah, definitely. But think about Oscar Schindler is now an action hero. You wouldn't have thought that at the time.
Right.
Even though he's 6'9" or whatever, he's huge. He's a big, imposing person in real life. Liam Neeson is.
Yeah.
The fact that he has that ability, I wish he would do it more. And maybe it's because he's not offered that anymore. But I also think the first couple Takens were fun for him for us. But after a while,
I think that he picks movies based on two criteria. I think he picks a movie that he normally does 2 a year. He hasn't done lately, but he used to do 2 a year. Pick the actioner, and then he pick a drama.
And then he started getting into the comedies.
Or maybe a comedy. Or he'd make a movie that's kind of a mix, like The Grey, which is a really underrated movie. It's really great.
But that was Taken with dogs. No, it wasn't. It was actually it was Jaws with wolves was what it was.
I love Taken.
It was great.
I love the Gray.
You love the Gray. You got
the first Taken isn't bad. The first Taken's pretty fun.
But you got my wife and I into that movie, and we didn't know what to expect. And even my wife, who wouldn't like that kind of genre, she thought that was a fantastic movie, and it was. And the most disappointing part was how it ended.
Yeah, well, I love the ending.
But it was still a great ending.
Yeah, it's a great ending. It's just, you have to come up with the rest of it in your head. Liam Neeson in a Scorsese movie is incredible. This cast is incredible. I hope Adam Driver isn't in whiny Kylo Ren mode, but I doubt that he is. I'm just playing.
Or girls mode. Because now that I've seen him a couple times, he's the same guy.
He's really good in Midnight Special. I liked him a lot in that. Andrew Garfield is really great as always. This is going to be a really good movie. Scorsese movies, they always tend to finish right at the last minute, and they just announced the release date of this one at the end of the year, so it's definitely going for Oscar consideration. But I'm dying to see it. It's got a subject matter that I'm very interested in, with stars I'm very interested in, with a Scorsese movie. Can I talk about one more film?
You've got we'll go to 1:30, so that's not time frame, that's lengthwise. So you got about 6 minutes.
Okay, there's another film that's opening that I've seen that I saw at Fantastic Fest this year. It's going to be a last minute kind of thing for Oscar consideration as well. It's directed by J.E. Bayona, and it's a movie called A Monster Calls, which is also with Liam Neeson. He's in it as well. Monster Calls is a powerful movie. It's not for everyone. The trailers may sell it as a boy meets giant monster kind of thing and befriends him, but it's not that.
So it's Taken with monsters.
No. It is not taken with anything. The book was written by an author who's since passed away, I believe, but it's basically a little boy dealing with his mother's cancer. And he kind of creates this idea of this giant tree monster that lives outside of his house, who's been the tree has been there for centuries and sees all sorts of things, and the tree begins to tell the boy. The tree is voiced by Liam Neeson, and the tree tells the boy these stories, and the stories are basically about the boy trying to deal with this situation that's happening with him. Felicity Jones plays his mother, and Sigourney Weaver plays his grandmother. Sigourney Weaver's great in this movie, and there's a scene in the film where I'll put it this way. This movie is the kind of movie that it's basically your mileage may vary. As someone who had cancer in his life, my father died of cancer when I was 17. I recognized a lot in this movie. It was a hard watch for me. It was a really crying movie for me because a lot of the stuff that they talk about, the ideas and themes that are going on, and even specific situations which happen in the film that I did and lived through. A Monster Calls is a rough watch. If you have if you have close members of your family who have had a long illness or cancer, this movie may not be for you because it's going to trigger you. But as movies go, A Monster Calls is really great film. The director directed a movie called The Orphanage a few years back, and another one called The Impossible, which is about that earthquake, the tsunami, and he's very skilled. Some people may think that this one is poking at your emotions a little too directly. It's a little too obvious. The manipulation of your emotions is a little too upfront. I could see that, but at the same time, when you're dealing with issues like this and you're dealing with experiences like this, there's no other way but to be direct. And this is a movie that is very strong, it's very powerful, and it is one of the best films of the year. And when it opens this Christmas, you should make your way out to find it and see it.
Well, we've got 2 minutes. I gave you 6. We got 2 minutes left. So I want to ask you, this year's been an up and down year. There's been some really great stuff out, but overall, what did you think of 2016? Because I may not see you again until Christmas, but I definitely will see you for Oscar season. What 2 movies? And I know that's difficult. What 2 movies jumped out at you this year?
There's a movie by Park Chan-wook called The Handmaiden, which is incredible. And it's by the time you hear this podcast, it has opened. If you find it, go see it. It's a little raw when it comes to sexuality, but it's amazing. If you know who Park Chan-wook is, he directed a film called Old Boy, and that is a great film. But The Handmaiden is actually a better movie. Which is really hard to say because since Old Boy is a masterpiece. It's a movie about these 3 characters and how the movie kind of revolves around them, and I won't spoil much more than that. A second film this year, man, Civil War.
Captain America Civil War?
Captain America Civil War. I've watched it like 7 times now. It doesn't get old. It's exciting and fun. And I'm not going to brag because my name is on the cover of the Blu-ray.
I forgot to mention that. If you buy the Blu-ray, right on the front, and I think I put that as the picture for this particular one. It was fantastic to see that, and you deserved it because you do a lot of hard work, and like you said, you were the most optimistic of all the film critics, and so Captain America Civil War, we both love. I know we have a geek culture, so we're susceptible to that, but it was a really good movie overall.
A lot of great fun.
I want to thank you and have a happy holidays. Tell the wife and kid I said hello. And,
I will.
Hopefully we'll see you Christmas time for Rogue One, but if not, we'll definitely see you to start off the new year.
All righty. Thanks a lot.
That's the show. Thanks to Alan as always. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter at realitycheckpodcast.com. Follow Reality Check Pod on Twitter and like the Facebook page. Questions, comments, guest suggestions to go to Craig at speakercraigprice.com. See you next week.